Frankie. I'm just so honored to be here to talk about Houston. I mean, I love doing that. And when they told me about this notion of the shapes of Houston, I thought, well, I've been thinking about that for a while. And some of the art here in the background tried to capture that. But I think part of the trick of finding the shapes of Houston is living here and going about it day to day, seeing what Houston is like. That's where you find them. So I looked at this and I continue to through my group Houstorian, which is about telling the story of Houston and getting people more engaged and knowing about Houston's history. And that's a pretty big umbrella. And I have visual projects in there. I have tweets. I have things about what happened on this day, or who said something really wonderful about Houston, or something famous said in Houston. All sorts of things. We look at it as a way for every Houstonian to sort of be connected to one another. And history can be something easy like who was the first person in your family to move to Houston, or why is your street named the way it is. There's all sorts of fun ways to find the history that's lurking around every corner here. So that's sort of what Houstorian's about. But within my sort of project for finding visual projects, or visual things to do with Houston, I'm always looking for ways to, how do you say Houston without spelling it out on a t-shirt or something. So the goal is to sort of maybe find our own language or our own dialect, our secret handshake. Those are so much fun when you find that one thing that your neighbor knows, another Houstonian knows, and nobody else knows. Whether you just moved here or you've been here forever, those moments of connection are really fun and valuable. When talking about shapes, for me, the first shape ever is the blue and white tiles. I love using it in the branding. Lots of other people are using it now too, which is great. There's a company that will replace the tiles. The city's policy is just to ignore it. They don't discourage you from putting new ones in. So I just always went to the blue tile, which is, for me, the Houston shape. I made this as an art project. I was collecting little fragments of curbs up until I guess I was about 21 and putting it in my family's garage, which we didn't park in. But my dad came to me and said, "Son, you got to do something with all these curb fragments." And I spent an afternoon busting them all apart, and the tile would break before the concrete would. And I had a cup of blue tiles and a cup of white tiles, and I thought, I'm not going to spell my name, that's kind of silly. But I thought I'd always loved this idea of amnesia, which is what Stephen Fox, the estimable Houston architectural historian, spoke that Houston suffered from amnesia. And I just love that concept that, we sort of don't have any sense of our own past, and we don't really care. So I saw this as a way to make a political statement. It's hanging in my living room, but I always loved it. Anyway, so there we are. There's some shapes right there. So here's literally the shape of Houston. That looks terrible on a t-shirt. It looks like a gunshot wound or that stain in your ceiling after that hard rain. It doesn't really make people feel good. This shape does. The Galveston Bay shape is a good feeling. The waterway is a good feeling. This, not so much. So the literal shape of Houston, we don't really like that so much. So, all right, let's look at a map with things that we do know about. Freeways, land, and overlapped on, there are some landmarks on there, but this we sort of get to know, and whether we love it or hate it, whether we never go there or always have to go there, or we're stuck here, or I don't even know what that part is. We know what this is. It's in the morning news. It's in the weather. We always see these signs, and in hoping to find a great Houston symbol, which is really, I just wanted a really bulletproof, wonderful logo or seal like a Superman or something. I came up with this and it's just, it's I-10 is not straight, we know, but somehow when you see it, and I just kind of captured it out of the air. It really was fortunate, and it's been a great honor to see it elsewhere. People have it on their tattoos, and I loan it out to friends, and people send me pictures of their kids in Russia on a field trip, and there it is in front of St. Peter's, and it's wonderful to see how well it's traveled. But the stories of you're in another city and you're wearing this as a shirt and somebody comes running up and wants to talk to you because, hey, I'm from Houston too. I'll say, yes, I know I don't have the other loops on there. I don't have the Spencer Highway for some reason on there, but it works somehow. I tried it and it just looked like I don't know, it didn't work. So this is another really wonderful shape that I'm modestly very proud of. And so other shapes that we know I found are like sports logos that don't have any text on them at all, but you know instantly what they are, and they travel. So we know that's Astros, obviously. If you're old enough to, maybe you just remember, this is the Houston Oilers, which left in 99, I think, 97. But the logo still remains. I think the Tennessee Titans still own this logo. I was at actually I was there with you and your sister. We went and saw the Texans play the Titans, and there was a gentleman there wearing a Oilers jersey, and I thought, who are you rooting for? I didn't ask him, but it was one of those. So this is a great logo, based on our oil industry, and gives a lot of people sadness, a lot of people joy. If you remember the 1980 season, if you remember how it all went down in the 90s, it wasn't very good, and we blame Bud Adams for that. But anyway, so sports logos are really great shapes. This one you might not know. This is, before we had the Astros, we had a minor league team called the Houston Buffaloes, or the Buffs. And there was a stadium, they just tore it down where the Fingers warehouse was over across from U of H. And in the it was an open-air stadium, and they had these 3-foot diameter panels all the way around the building. So if you ever see one of these in a junk shop, buy it. They're rusted out, but this is my recreation of them. But this is just a wonderful shape. It doesn't say anything, but if you know it's Houston Buffs, then you're instantly going to get excited and think, that's Houston. Some of these logos that travel are not very fun to see, but they're very Houston. I don't know if they called it the Crooked E before all that shit went down, but it's certainly the Crooked E now. I was going to include there's a video somebody took. It's a scrolling video of the rotating E, but I thought this will do enough damage. Anyone know what this is without the Summit? Right. Usually see it says the Summit, and out front it has the big S on there. I always thought it looked like the Portland Trailblazers logo, but I didn't care. That one gives me so much joy to see from all those great Rockets games and concerts and the circus. I mean, yeah, that just makes me feel very happy. That's a funny shape, but it's Summit, S for Summit. So here's I'm going to show some real life shapes that we don't own, but are meaningful to us in Houston. Obviously, the circle for the moon. Pennzoil Place, probably my favorite landmark, and I'll get to the Astrodome in a little bit. But this is such a wonderful building. It opened in 1976, and it's 2 trapezoids. They're the same. They're just mirrored and backwards. So wherever you're looking, you're always going to get a different view, and you're never really sure that they're the same building, but they are. That gap is only 10 feet apart. There's a wonderful story about, and this is such a Houston shape, these trapezoids. So there's a legendary story that Jerry Hines, the developer, wanted to do some more commercial real estate and wanted a really hot architect, and called up Philip Johnson, who was kind of on his third career, and he'd just done some high rises and some interesting things. And Philip Johnson sort of sniffed and said, I'm not going to do commercial real estate. That's not for me. But they met, and he convinced him. And Johnson ended up doing what I consider to be his masterpiece, against his will, really. So that's such a wonderful story. But you can't, this is Heritage, or I guess I forget the name of it now. You can't get this view anymore because it's surrounded on all sides. But this building just always makes my heart full. And I think there's a Chick-fil-A in the basement too. So that doesn't hurt. Of course, this is a great shape. This is a broken obelisk at the Rothko Chapel. Now, I think there are 3 broken obelisk sculptures by Barnett Newman, but ours is the best one. It's outside. It's been graffitied. I think after it had some really nasty things spray painted on it, Dominique de Menil, who famously with her husband had it installed there, said, no, leave the graffiti on it. We want everybody to see what they did, which that's so awesome. That's such a great building. There's just, I think, a wooden rod that holds those two together, like a cylinder. It's a really amazing. I was watching as they reinstalled it after they cleaned it. That's Corten steel, which is meant to get rusty and ratty. But that's such a great shape. Again, if you saw that, you would get homesick if you were somewhere else, I think. This is a... I'm just drawing a blank. It's Klaus Oldenburg, but it's a... What's the name of it? Something Mouse X. I forget the name. It just got reinstalled behind the Houston Public Library on the Bagby side. Growing up, I was on the Plaza side, and we would try to play in it, but it was kind of scary. This is probably the best angle to see that it is sort of a mouse. But this is such a great shape, and it's such a joy to be down Bagby now that they've redone it, and it's there just welcoming everybody. Geometric Mouse X. Thank you. Right? This is a wonderful shape. Again, nothing much to it. It's a circle, right? But for generations of us, we loved the stickers. They just recently stopped the stickers because kids, everyone, would leave and put them on the telephone boxes, on the telephone poles. It was awesome. It was a wonderful sort of folk installation after a while. But the city was like, we got to do something about that. Well, so they came up with this new shape, which is a little clip, which is fun because you can collect it. You can collect them all. There's like 12 colors. This is a great shape. I love this shape because when you see this shape, you're in for something special. You've got a park. Now, Spark Park is a school park that has been spiffed up and made open for after-hours neighborhood use. No dogs allowed. But as long as it's daylight and the kids aren't there, you're welcome to go. So if you see one of these yellow ovals, go check out that park. My favorite is the one kind of in my neighborhood in First Montrose Commons at the Arabic Immersion Magnet School. You should see this Spark Park. It's beautiful. Yeah. And they did a lot with a parking lot. Well, we're in a shape too. This, if you've grown up in Houston, you remember the streets were like that forever. They built the convention center and they made the streets curve like that, and it didn't make any sense to us who like straight streets. But the park figured out how to put a park in it. They closed off some of the streets, but it still has that 70s, 60s block configuration. So if I see that shape, I know it's Discovery Green. Of course, the skyline is, everybody loves their own skyline, but I mean, that's obviously Houston skyline. It's a little fuzzy, but there it is. You can make out the, Heritage. And this is the view from Allen Parkway if you're about to see a concert or lights. But I just thought, so there are buildings that are so simple in their ultimate design that they become sort of symbols themselves. Here's Niels Esperson, which is right around the corner. Again, very Houston building, very distinct profile, lends itself very well to his shape. And so I started getting on this kick. So some of these are my own drawings of, well, what a great building that could be whittled down into a very specific shape that everybody knows. And it's really tough to do because you have to know what to keep and what to leave behind and what color. And, do we do the whole building? Do we just do the Tempietto? Overly simplified, but that makes it faster and easier to have that aha moment. I know what that is. So these are just some of the ones that I've been playing with over the years. I was talking to some Buffalo Bio Partnership people, and they said we want to use that for something. I said great. They said one condition: you have to take the dog out of it because dogs are not allowed in that fountain. A very good friend, she won't mind, she said that she and her husband got engaged there. And I was like, that's a wonderful story. And I waited up until about 11 and a half months to give them a wedding gift because I didn't know what to buy them. So I remembered her dog, so I did a version of it with her dog in the fountain. That was nice. I hope she liked that. Of course, Transco, another Philip Johnson building. I forget who the first person was who described that searchlight as reminded them of a big can of Raid spraying the city at night. I can't unthink that. And when I see it, I'm like, okay, here it comes. Take a deep breath. I'm going to get back to Transco in a minute. So this is, do you know what this is? The Cistern. Now, that was tough. I mean, again, it's hard to... I'm saying this modestly as I can. It's hard to sometimes turn something into its most pure form that you recognize right away in a very simple shape. And so this is a wonderful, and this is really the view down. They used to have a thing that would like a periscope down into it. So that was sort of the view. That's why I got the circle idea from it. Of course, this is what I can talk another hour about. This is the beloved Astrodome. This is the ceiling if you're standing looking straight up at it. It's a dome shape, but I made it flat. It famously had two of the panels. They're still there. They're just a little grayer. So somebody said, you didn't dark out the panels. I said, yeah, even you're there, you still see them. And when I tried it and it just looked like Pac-Man. So I thought that's a symbol and shape that that's not us. I love Pac-Man, but yeah. So this is a really wonderful one too. Again, if it doesn't say Astrodome, and if you don't know it, you might think it's the Death Star from Star Wars, but if you know it, you're going to get really excited, especially if you love the dome or sports or the rodeo or anything that might have happened there for you. So then I tried to find another way to turn Astrodome into something very simple. You can show it in profile, which just sort of looks like, as Larry McMurtry famously said, the business end of an anti-deodorant bar. Just, all right. But that's funny and true, but I wanted to give it a little bit more oomph. And I found something by accident recently. If you turn the Astrodome sideways, it looks like a rim or a swanger on the slab cars, the chrome, you see what you want to see in it, I guess. Yeah. So here's a famous shape that you might not have. Obviously, this is Transco, and you can't see this all the time. But if you look really closely, I'll point to it. I don't think Philip Johnson was this clever, but there is a cat in the building. There's the cat ears and the body and the tail. That's a wonderful Houston shape. And if you put that on a shirt, nobody would know what that is. But if you drive by and see that, you might forget all the grackles that are on your car, or the people running the red lights at Post Oak, or how your car got broken into shopping. But I just love that fun shape of Houston. This is very old school Houston. This was one of my favorite shapes. This was on a pest control 59 in Chimney Rock, I think. It's in a warehouse somewhere, but it's just hilarious to me. I love this shape. So I moved on to colors too, and I wanted to. There's so many fun colors are sort of on the purview of this talk, right? Okay. So we've got really some fun colors, and I patterned these sort of as quasi like Pantone chips. I called them Houstones, but then somebody told me there's a prison gang called Houstone. So we're going to call them H-tones now. Although I got a great one for San Antonio, we'll call them the San Antones. So I've done about 75 of these, and they're meant to just be funny and joyful and not serious or cynical at all. But some of them, that's Astros. Love You Blue, obviously that's such a great color, iconic color. I don't know if these colors really present. Most of this project is a feel, not a scientific sort of study of how I got to that color. It really is just if it feels right. That one I got a lot of criticism on. Everybody seems to know what the Manil gray is, so I had to put a lot of work into that gray. A lot of people were, nope, you're wrong. People see green, people see blue, and so orange. This was one. If you're old enough, so I have some family friends who owned this restaurant, and we just love that candy. And she said, "You got to do it." And I was like, "All right, you don't need to send me a picture. I know exactly what color that is." Of course, Pennzoil, which looks dark, but if you get close, it's kind of brown. So, which you wouldn't describe it as a brown building, but it definitely is brown. River Oaks Theater I wanted to bring up because we were all just jumping up and down last week, although we were sort of secretly excited a year ago when Weingarten got taken out of the picture because they were not a big fan of preservation, but Kimco is, and they've got a new tenant, so we're all very excited. I just had to do a little plug for that. And of course, I wanted to end where we started with the curb tile. That color is just so exciting for me, and I love it when they put it in big tile on the on Lower Westheimer at State of Grace, that building. that's fun to see it there. It's fun to see people just putting the number in front of their house. I'm see, maybe we've been in old buildings and bathrooms where you see it in the around the lavatory, but this is such a Houston thing for us, and I'm glad that other people are getting excited about little preservation projects like tiles, shapes like that, and big projects. Obviously, get a lot of attention, but the little ones are sometimes the best ones for me. I think I covered everything that I wanted to. Well, if you like, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I guess everybody says that now. But I promise I won't waste your time on it. It's been a lot of fun. I'm a one-man band, so it's been really gratifying to do this project that really was just for myself, I thought, and to find everybody else really enjoying it too is very, very gratifying. Thank you.